It's been nearly 5 years since Disney Star Wars released the final turd in the sequel trilogy, Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker, and it got destroyed by so many people. People that hated The Last Jedi also hated The Rise of Skywalker. Some people that loved The Last Jedi hated The Rise of Skywalker. And despite it barely creeping over the billion-dollar mark at the box office, the most recent financial records for Rise of Skywalker indicated that yes, indeed, it did not make its money back. And here we are once again. So many rumors and bullshit reports out there about, oh, Kathleen Kennedy, she's going to get fired, we promise. Hasn't happened. It never was going to happen. And now here we are in 2024. And the new report out there from just a few days ago is that Disney Star Wars has greenlit another trilogy. There's like 10 movies in production right now, or in some form of production at Lucasfilm, and they decided to add on another trilogy. Why the hell not? This time written by Simon Kinberg and produced by himself and Kathleen Kennedy. And we're hearing that Rey is going to once again be a focal point of these stories. And it's caused a lot of speculation and confusion and uncertainty about what the fuck is actually going on at Lucasfilm. Almost like we've heard this story time after time after time because the poor leadership under Kathleen Kennedy. Disney Star Wars being surrounded by people who don't understand Star Wars and just want to promote their stories. And here we are once again. The Hollywood Reporter just released a big article including a lot of the chaos behind the scenes and people that work at Lucasfilm, people that are working on these movies that aren't talking to each other and don't even know what the fucking plan is going forward. Star Wars movies race for Rey and the future of the franchise on the big screen. The scavenger turned Jedi played by Daisy Ridley in the last 3 episode movies is key to the space opera's next turn. Forget the Death Star. The most coveted weapon in the Star Wars movie arsenal is the character of Rey Skywalker. Since the November 7th reveal that Simon Kinberg had signed on to develop and write and produce a new Star Wars trilogy for Lucasfilm and Disney, debate has focused on whether or not it would be a continuation of the so-called 9-film Skywalker saga, tying it to the legacy of Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, and storylines first laid out by George Lucas in 1977. The reason for the debate is that the new hoped-for trilogy would feature Rey in some form or fashion. Some fans have expressed criticism that Lucasfilm would return to the well to make episodes, as they're called, beyond the 9 movies that comprise the Skywalker story. Just get this straight, the sequel trilogy doesn't count. It's an abomination. The idea that you would call that the Skywalker saga, literally go fuck yourself, Disney, which had been billed as concluding with 2019's Rise of Skywalker. But Rey, the scavenger turned Jedi played by Daisy Ridley in the last 3 episode movies, is key to the franchise's next turn. And regardless of whatever you think about Daisy Ridley or her acting ability or her as a person, the truth is nobody cares about Rey. The fact that this article is going to outline that Disney, Lucasfilm, they think that Rey is their most bankable character going forward. They think that Rey is the only person that can bring people back to theaters, which is fucking sad. But let's get into it. But Rey, the scavenger turned Jedi, is the key to the franchise's next turn. That potentially puts Kinberg's trilogy story development, as early in its conceptual stages as it may be, on a collision course with the Rey movie that's actively in the works with director Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. And we know that that's been a disaster from the get-go as well. Multiple writers have already been fired. A new writer search is underway, so it's unclear when that one would go. Perhaps that's why Lucasfilm was receptive to Kinberg's multi-story pitch, anything to move Rey forward, but it does engender rumors in the Star Wars underground of filmmakers jostling for characters. Ridley, for her part, recently told Hollywood Reporter, I feel like the new one/new ones will be so interesting. So obviously they had been discussing this. I noticed when she said the new ones that was something to pay attention to because that was the first time we'd heard something like that. Time has passed, a lot has changed for me, so it'll be interesting to come back to someone I know so well, but in such a different moment. While insiders dispute the notion that there's a battle for Rey, there definitely is internal deliberation within Lucasfilm as to what to do with the heir to Skywalker next. Quote, she's the most valuable cinematic asset, in some ways maybe the only one Star Wars has right now, one source close to the franchise tells THR. They talk about Mandalorian and Grogu releasing in theaters, blah, blah, blah. According to sources, Rey is set to play a role in several movies that are being developed, although which ones remain unclear. Star Wars movie development has been under scrutiny for several years, with Lucasfilm head Kathleen Kennedy taking fire for not developing meaningful characters beyond those first created by Lucas prior to the sale in 2012. And if the franchise looks forward in its canon timeline, all those beloved characters are dead or had their storylines wrapped up in prequels or spin-offs. Rey, created in the post-Lucas era, is arguably the only entity with currency on the big screen now. The closet is a little bare, says another source. What the Kinberg hiring lays bare is that development of movies at the company remain its own unique ecosystem in Hollywood. There are numerous Star Wars movies being developed that overlap characters or timelines. They're not related, but whichever one were to come out first could, in a domino effect, impact the ones after it. Some Lucasfilm directors are aware of what others are working on while others are not. For instance, Taika Waititi is working on a Star Wars movie, Sean Levy on a featured project in the works, and Donald Glover's Lando idea has moved over development from TV to the film side, and a Rogue Squadron project is also still in development as a feature. And the crazy part is, this is the reason you have a story group. This is the reason that you stupid fucks at Lucasfilm decided to just destroy the entire expanded universe, start over from scratch, and everything's going to be canon. We're going to stay so consistent. We're going to have a story group, blah, blah, blah. All this bullshit. This bullshit that they peddled on to people in the years following the sale. That was the excuse for erasing hundreds and hundreds of characters and stories that they could have told. They wanted creative freedom. They wanted to make sure everything lined up just perfectly. And there are now more problems with continuity in canon and issues like that in just a decade of Disney Star Wars and what they've put out between the books, comic books, films, the streaming stuff, etc., than you had in the entire EU. And that's saying something, to be honest with you. It's a different way of development, says another insider familiar with the company's way of working. There's so much parallel work going on. It also points to the unique nature of Star Wars. To fans, and in this case, filmmakers and producers, it is not a brand or a franchise, but something akin to a religion. Unlike Marvel and DC, with decades of stories propelling them forward, even Harry Potter with 7 fleshed-out books, Star Wars at its core has been the original George Lucas movies, and nothing has been codified or made more canonical in modern times than those 3 movies. To filmmakers and execs, the first trilogy is the Old Testament. The prequels should be as well, just for the record. They're also made by George Lucas. You're being asked to create a New Testament, adds one source who's worked on previous movies. And no one can agree on anything, and there's a lot of second guessing about meanings. Yeah, because you filled this place with people who don't respect George Lucas, who don't respect Star Wars, and they will freely go off on their own, interpret it any way they want, as long as they get to tell their story. Another source familiar with the process is more business-minded, noting Star Wars is a nostalgia-based enterprise, and they are running out of ways to create nostalgia. It's because they can't create good stories. They can't create compelling characters. So all they can do is use the reminder of the things that were actually great that you do care about, these characters, and jam them into places where they don't fucking belong to try to get you to care about these new characters. The television side doesn't appear to have these problems. As several insiders know, that arm has a lot more freedom to expand Lucas's universe. Maybe that's why we got so much dog shit. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Book of Boba Fett, the last 2 seasons of Mandalorian, Ahsoka, The Acolyte. Andor is the only halfway decent thing to come out of there. Let's just be real. As well as a corner for Ahsoka creator Dave Filoni, the chief creative officer at Lucasfilm. By the way, Dave Filoni also overseeing all this film stuff. All these films that are in production. Dave Filoni, chief creative officer. He sees it all. So if you want to talk about all the problems right now and the problems they're having with continuity, people not know what's going on, Dave Filoni, the man that everybody wanted in that position. Well, there he is. Things are worse than ever. Adds an insider, to make standalone movies or continuing the Skywalker saga in any form is a fundamental question the company faces as it tries to move forward. What a complete and total nightmare. And this is coming from The Hollywood Reporter, by the way. Internally at Lucasfilm, there's no guidance, there's no vision, there's no leadership. The story group isn't doing fuck all. Anyone's doing whatever the hell they want. They can't agree on where they're supposed to go. This is a nightmare, but this describes the last 12 years of Star Wars under Disney. This is Lucasfilm. This is what it's been from the very beginning. Poor decision after poor decision. And it took some people a little while to open their eyes, pull the blinders off for something like Force Awakens or Mando Season 1 or whatever it may be, but this is where we are. Disney Star Wars is a complete and total disaster. Lucasfilm is in shambles, and they've got all these things announced. No one has any idea what's going on. What do you guys think about this? Let me know in the comments section below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.